What if I told you that there is one simple solution to fix all the unbalanced abilities and interactions in the finals? Change that would make the defib, heal beam, RPG and shields balanced? Actually, there is one way, but before talking more about it, first let me tell you the analogy from a different game perspective. You see, in games like Overwatch, for example, which is fairly similar to the finals in terms of abilities and classes, there was a problem with the ranked mode when the game was released. Majority of the players wanted to pick DPS champion as this role was the most fun to play between healer and tank, which required more thinking to get the most of their kit. This created the possibility of 6v6 DPS team deathmatch on rankeds, which was far from the game state developers intended to have making the game. The problem was solved a couple years later when they introduced locked roles where there could be only 2 tank players, 2 DPS and 2 supports. That made the game more stable in terms of meta and made the overall gameplay more interesting. Unfortunately, this created another problem, where DPS queue was way longer compared to tank and support, because still most of the players wanted to play DPS. As you can imagine, high elo DPS players would need to wait sometimes more than 30 minutes to get 50 minutes of gameplay, which was very bad, especially for streamers. That's why when they hit rank high enough where queue timer hit the 10-minute mark, they were creating smurf accounts to again have short queue times. To fix that, developers changed a total number of players from 6 in one team to 5, removing one tank spot which had the lowest player count at the time, buffing every tank character to make it overall more impactful, as well as slowly buffing every support character's damage. As you can see, there is a high chance that creators of the finals were monitoring this situation and didn't want to make the same mistake. They already created buffed heavy role, which was insanely overloaded in Season 1 with nukes, shields, guns and RPG, and the quote support role was just normal DPS with a heal beam. Light class was created to be the most fun role, but also skill ceiling of this class was insanely high. The problem here is that this is 3v3 game, not 5v5, and also, which is important, you can play any team compositions you like, thus the heavy being the strongest with a possibility to run 2 or even 3 heavies. Funny thing is that on normal modes, player would still spam mainly light class, even in Season 1, sometimes medium, but almost no heavy, which clearly said that the only reason players would play heavy role is to win, and not because they would enjoy that role, but to have a chance to win some games as light class, you need to be very good at least and have great understanding of the game, which most of the players didn't have time for. They were just here to have fun, which is fair, and this in my opinion was the main reason why the player count dropped rapidly in Season 1 and Season 2, as only at the end of Season 2 heavy class started to get some significant nerfs. Now when I'm creating this video, it's end of Season 3 and the meta is still double heavy medium or 2 mediums heavy, where in both cases the medium are mostly picked to help heavy win the fight versus another heavy, and losing heavy means you need to regroup instantly. Light class is available only if you are exceptionally good, but when you are really good at light and have good aim, why just not pick medium and win the game easier way? Another problem is that some of the abilities, even if they are balanced, when you have one of them in your team comp, they become insanely broken when there are 2 or 3 of those. The good example here is the medium defib and heal beam, as this is arguably the most hated ability combo in the finals. But notice that only when there are more than one medium in the team, these abilities feels overwhelming. And don't get me wrong, I think these abilities are very good, but they are also what makes medium class different than the other ones. As well as you can play around them, for example use stun gun or glitch to stop healing beam and track defibs, as it has very long cooldown. Next problem is overlapping abilities in terms of cooldown. Here, good example is Doom Shield from heavy class. The shield, when used correctly, which means playing at the edge of it, can make you almost invincible. And so while playing 2 heavies, you could have almost permanent advantage in fight versus different compositions, as even if someone would use glitches at one shield, another heavy could just use their instantly, which just meant this ability in that case was uncounterable. The shield recently got nerfed, so the overlapping isn't problem in that case, but now the Doom is just too easy to counter in my opinion while playing one heavy. This problem also occurs when 2 mediums have heal beam. 2 teams which have 2 mediums can make the fight go endlessly, but with only one medium in every team, the fights are way more interesting and more depending on cooldown tracking. And the third problem is a lethal damage created by overlapping the same guns in one team. For example, 3 snipers who can one-shot medium player from distance, or just 3 lights in general with cloak, with any close range gun. This kind of team comps are just very oppressive to play against, especially in competitive environment, but even if they are oppressive, they are not really viable team comp because they can't get close to cash out station, which is the most important part of the game. Overall, I think these kind of comps are not good addition to the competitive play, as well as they are insanely hard to balance. Now, here is my question. What if we could introduce roles lock into light, medium, heavy comp? That would fix most of the problems I mentioned, and more in the future created by new abilities and guns. As well as this could make the niche build viable, because the reworks now should be way easier with only one class in each team. And yes, you want to say, if we introduced this locked role model into the game, the queues will be longer, just like in Overwatch, as most of the players want to play light class, which is most fun, just like the DPS role in Overwatch. But can't you see already that current strongest team comp in competitive play is without light class? When the ranked system will be introduced, in cash out mode again in Season 4, the highest skilled players will only abuse the meta, so adding role lock would force players to have always one light in their team, which would solve the meta problem itself. Now, the abilities can be reworked a little to create some great synergies between the classes. For example, melee dive comp, long range comp, bunker comp, or some fun goo comp. In my opinion, that would change the competitive part of the game for the better, and the all roles games would be allowed on normal games. Also, if there would be a situation where you somehow got 3 medium mains in one team, for example in some tournament, it is not that hard to transition into other roles instantly, like for example in Overwatch, where every character have completely different set of abilities as well as shooting pattern. This is something I've been thinking for a while now, and I'm curious, what do you guys think about this change, and if this could make the game better or create some more problems? Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the finals.